Welcome to Ruby Thursday. I'm Melissa Wanish. This is Ruby snack number 60, Create New Rails App with Docker. In this episode, you'll learn how to set up a simple Docker file, set up a docker-compose.yml file, and commands for building a new app with Docker. If you want to code along, you'll need Docker and Docker Compose installed. You can check out the first in this series, Ruby snack number 59, Intro to Docker. We're going to dive right into the code this episode. So here is a recipe for your app's dependencies. So you're going to make a Docker file. You can just think of it as a little instruction book for creating your container. You'll see similar commands to when you would launch a virtual private server, especially the run apt-get update and then apt-get install. These would be all of those dependencies that you would need to run your app. So I'm just including a few here per the tutorial I'm referencing. But if you're using things like Capybara WebKit, you're going to need a few more things. If you're using Paperclip or Carrier Wave, you're going to need ImageMagick. So this could be a long list of things that you might need. This is just a very simple one to get you started. Then you're going to run make directory and you're going to have your app's name in there. I've chosen Deep Space Nine because, well, thinking of Docker and what do you dock to? And I thought, oh, a space station, why not? But that's where you would put your app name and just be sure to put underscores where you would want the app to have a capital letter next. And you would put your app's name again in work.dir, add Gemfile, add Gemfile.lock, and then add dot in the name of your app. Opening up your command line, let's go ahead and be in a folder that you want to be in, and we'll go ahead and touch, meaning create the Docker file. Now after I ran all this, I thought, oh gosh, I should have actually put it in a folder called Deep Space Nine. That is the name of the app. So go ahead and name the folder the name of your app. I just put it in a Docker folder, but when you run all the commands, all of your app folders will be in that folder, so might as well name it after the app. So I've pasted in what we need from our Dockerfile. Now we need to create a temporary Gemfile and Gemfile.lock. The Gemfile will be overwritten by the Rails new command. For right now, we just need the source as Ruby Gems and the newest version of the Rails gem. Then you would create a completely empty Gemfile.lock. You can do this from your command line or from the editor. So back in our editor, I'm just going to create a new file here for the Gemfile and save that and put in the 2 lines that we need to get us started. And then I will create an empty Gemfile.lock and save that. The last file we need to create on our own is a docker-compose YAML file, and you can use YML or YAML. And these are instructions for creating the web container and database container. In the last episode, we talked about how these would be separate containers, and now here are the instructions on how to do it. So we're saying there's going to be a service called DB, and it'll be Postgres. Then we're going to have a service called web, and web is your app. So it's going to build in the directory that we're in where we call the command. It's going to go ahead and run a Rails server. And the volumes are the name of your app and the ports, and that it depends on the database. So the database has to be working first. Okay, back in our editor, we will create that new file, the docker-compose.yml. I'll copy in for our Deep Space Nine app. Now it's time to generate the app. We will run this command, docker-compose run web rails new dot, where we are. We're going to force the database to be Postgres SQL, and we're going to skip bundle because the bundle command is actually in our Docker file. At the end of this command, if you wanted to run any of your other standard Rails new commands, say you don't want to use the test suite, you want to use RSpec instead, you could just put that on at the end of this command. Once that has run, and that does take a very long time to run the very first time. Think of how long it takes to install things on a virtual private server. After it's finished, you can check out the files, ls-l, and you'll see if you're Linux that most of those files are owned by root, so you're going to have trouble modifying them. So if you're on Linux, you want to go ahead and run sudo chown-r user to make sure that you are able to edit those new Rails files. Back in our terminal, let's run this. And I'm going to go ahead and show the whole process, but I've sped it up by 1,000%. So it did take quite a long time on my computer. It's pulling things down from the internet, different images, and it's installing them. And it does take quite a bit of time. Now, when you do this the first time and you don't change your Dockerfile, later updates or later builds won't take quite as long. But I have sped this up here just so you can see all the different things. Now it's going into running your bundler. So you see that's happening, installs there. And now it's done. So now let's check it out. And you see here the 4 I created are belonging to me, but the other ones belong to root. So let's go ahead and run the chown so that I will have access to all of those files to make my Deep Space Nine app. And now you see that they all belong to me. We do need to set up the database to be a little bit different since it's on a container. The important lines there are that it's username Postgres, that's the image we brought down. There is no password, but you need to put that it's blank, and the host is DB. That is what the container is called. So as you see now, we have all these lovely files in our folder, and I'll go to config and database.yml, and go ahead and add these to our default section, the username, password, and host, and save that. We're going to take some final steps to just see what we've done so far. We're going to run docker-compose up, and that's a standard command you're going to be running a lot with Docker. If you have any issues with missing gems, and anytime you change your Gemfile or Dockerfile, you're going to need to run docker-compose build. I had some issue with Postgres, so you'll see that coming up. When I ran this command, it fixed itself. Then in a separate terminal, you can run docker-compose run web rake db create. We'll be going over more of these commands to actually develop your app with Docker in future episodes. For now, these are a couple to get you started. All right, back in our terminal again. Let's go ahead and I'll show you the error that I came up with. You see all those error messages. All right, so I scrolled up and I saw what is wrong. Okay, it's not finding Postgres as a gem, even though I know it's there. So let's build it again, and you'll see it takes a lot less time. It goes right into bundling up your gems. Now I'm going to go ahead and skip that part. I'm going to cut to when it's finished. And now let's try compose up again. And this time it's going to give you some messages about Postgres. That should all be fine. And then you should see the standard Rails server messages. And there it is. And you see it says Control-C to stop, just like your regular Rails server. Let's go ahead and open another tab. And we're going to create our database. After that's done, let's check out localhost 3000. And there it is, our brand new Rails app created with Docker. As I mentioned, I followed a tutorial for this. It was on the Docker site. It seemed pretty easy enough to get your feet wet with Docker Compose. So if you want to look at that and see what else they did, you can check it out. And that's it for this Ruby Snack. If you are not already on my mailing list, head on over to rubythursday.com to sign on up. And if you are not subscribed on YouTube, go ahead and click the links here so you can get the episodes just a little bit before everyone else. If you have any questions, best to leave those on YouTube. I will get to them as soon as I can. Thanks again so much for watching, and stay tuned for more Docker in upcoming episodes.